Hello, and thank you for joining me on this Foodoffensive.com's weekly news, where I bring you the news for the week concerning our food freedoms, things that are going on in food, whether it be genetically modified foods or what's in the drinking water, what are we actually putting into our bodies. So this week I have several stories that are quite interesting, quite telling, and some things maybe you already knew, some things maybe you didn't know, and hopefully to just overall goal is to inform you here. And I want to jump right in because last week I had to cut a lot of things out because I didn't have enough time to, only the 30-minute time block, I kind of went over that, so I had to kind of pick and choose what made it into the final cut. So this week I wanted to cover the first story here, and it's really the top one, it's really the most important one, and it's concerning this French GMO study that came out. And the scientist Seralini that did it, shortly after he published his work, he was pretty much attacked as far as his research goes and what the credibility of it was. So, but I've got some news here laying out the fact that that he was probably more in the right than these people are saying, and the ties that they have to the industry. So this first article here is from Public Service Europe. It's titled "Citizens Were Lied to Over GM Study." This is actually from January 14th, so a couple of weeks ago. But you can see the pictures there. If you're familiar with this study, you've already seen these pictures of the rats and the tumors that were grown on it. But I'm really going to give you an overview of that study. Then I'm going to look at a site that was started in his honor in order to vindicate him in a way, or to answer the critics. And I'll show you one page in particular that kind of goes through some of the things that quote they say and the things that he said and how he's the one right. So basically just an overview of this. We're going to look at this article here. The study by Professor Gilles Eric Seralini's team at the University of Caen, France, was the first to test the effects of eating a GM food and its associated pesticide over the animal's lifetime of 2 years. The study found that GM maize and Roundup caused severe organ damage and increased tumor rates as well as earlier death. Now, it goes on to say, feeding studies that last 90 days at most, equivalent to only 7 to 9 human years. That's a typical Monsanto test or another biotechnology company. That's a typical test that they do, is only 90 days. And so by doing this test, this professor really wanted to prove that we needed to do these studies over the lifetime of the test animal, because it really will lay out what really is going to happen in the case of a human body. Moving right along, it says Monsanto's 90-day study developed into full-blown liver and kidney damage over the longer 2-year period. So that's the initial signs that it's referring to, the initial signs of toxicity. The 90-day test that Monsanto had, there was some toxicity showing up in those tests in 90 days. Well, Seralini, by going into the 2-year test frame, realized that those toxicities developed into full-blown damage. And it says many of the critics were subsequently exposed as having commercial or career interests in GM technology. So these articles that came out, demonizing him and saying how bad he was, how poor the science was, and how poor the testing was. Those media articles never quoted the fact that those that were exposing him have ties to the genetically modified industry. So the problem is you got to follow the money once again. look at who's being criticized versus look at who's doing the criticizing. Who are these people in bed with, so to speak. And also, government agencies such as the EFSA had been involved in GM crop approvals, and so were simply defending their own decisions. I mean, if all this time you were saying, sure, we're going to allow these companies to come in and eat and grow the food that we're going to eat, of course, we're going to defend that. We're going to ride that lie all the way out, even when we realize that we were wrong. So they're saying that could be a possibility. And finally here, many scientists unconnected with Seralini's group are alarmed by what they see as suppression of scientific findings that are inconvenient to commercial or political interests. And so they've created this website, gmoseralini.org, and we're going to look at that here. I wanted to go over one more article before I go back to that website of his. French study accused of scare tax. This is the article by that same group, Public Service Europe. This is from back in September 20th, because that's when his study came out. It really came out then, and immediately it was attacked. Obviously, when someone has an interest in something and they have a firm stance on it, just like he does against it, they're going to come out and try to debunk it in a way. So this article gives the rundown of how they were accused of scare tactics and the poor science involved with it. But basically, the article says that this controversy arose after the French research published in the Journal of Food and Chemical Toxicology claimed that rats fed a diet of the GM company Monsanto's modified corn or exposed to the American firm's weed killer Roundup developed tumors as well as liver and kidney damage. The team from the university, including Seralini, examined 200 rats over 2 years. Those rats fed an exclusive diet of the weed variant, or the seed variant NK603, which is designed to be tolerant to Roundup, or given the weed killer itself in water at levels allowed in the United States, were much more vulnerable to premature death, they found. And then it goes on to say that this research created a backlash, and including a group called Europa Bio, which represents the biotech industry. Of course, they're defending their claims. They can't go back now on it. And then it says statistical methods were used. They had doubts that statistical methods used and of the control group, and then they described the maize-only diet as dubious and unrealistic. Well, here's the problem. I mean, in America, I know I can speak of at least, every processed food has either a genetically modified corn in it in the form of corn syrup or another variant, or a genetically modified soy. And the problem is, sure, one little dose here, you might get away with that, but every single thing you eat, especially people that are eating junk food and on processed diets and eating at some of the fast food chains, of course, they're going to be exposed to a great deal of this type of ingredients. So it's not unrealistic to say that a corn-only diet is dubious and unrealistic. It's not. I mean, we eat a lot of it. It says the study appeared designed not to produce good science, but to scare people and media into forming negative opinions of GM, Europa Bio said. Meanwhile, Seralini criticized regulators for relying on 3-month studies when they made decisions on authorizing GM products, noting that the effects found in the newly published research would not have been caught in that time frame. Speaking alongside him, Corinne LePage said there should be, quote, profound change in the way things work following the publication of this study. Well, the problem is you've got companies that are producing this stuff, and especially a company like Monsanto, where their very own scientists will not even eat in their cafeterias unless they have organic food or non-GMO food. They know the problem with the food because they test it every day, and they know enough not to eat it. That should be the most damning evidence that there is. And going back to that GMO Seralini .org information, it basically, it says GMO Seralini Critics answered, and this is their archive. Basically, it gives the main points that the critics try to say and try to accuse him of, and then it gives an answer. It gives a short answer you can see here on the screen, but it also has a read more, and it goes in deeper. So just wanted to go through a couple of these while I have a few minutes. The first one says the criticism was that Seralini's study was so badly designed that no conclusions can be drawn from it. Well, their answer is Seralini's study was a chronic toxicity study, not a carcinogenicity study. So that's one of the problems, that they say that he started with the end goal in mind. And we'll look at another one of those down here as well. It says the increase in tumor incidence was a surprise outcome. The logical response to the findings is not to dismiss them, but to follow up with a full-scale carcinogenicity study on the GM NK603 maize and Roundup. So not only did this study prove to be accurate, but it also spurred on the need to go on and do a full toxicity, or not a full carcinogenicity study. He was just setting out to do the toxicity of it, and he found more. It says, I wanted to find that one particularly. It says Seralini's findings do not justify his conclusions. And their answer to that, the study again was not a carcinogenicity study, but a chronic toxicity study. And then it says, thus Seralini overinterpreting the increase in tumor incidence observed, and did not claim that NK603 corn or Roundup are carcinogenic in humans. Further studies must be carried out before such conclusions can be drawn. What is concluded is that the NK603 maize and Roundup had, quote, serious toxic effects on rats, including kidney and liver damage, increased mortality, and the increased and earlier development of tumors, especially in female rats. And then he's accused of using too few animals, but they point out the fact that it's the same number that organizations use for the 90-day test that Monsanto does on its own food. That's the same test that they use to show that their GM foods are safe. So you can't get him on that. And it's enough to show toxicity, and it had enough to show, but not enough to show safety. This is the one about the predetermined outcome. The study objectives were unclear, and their answer is that that's not true. In fact, Monsanto, not Seralini, is guilty of conducting studies with a predetermined outcome. This company's that Monsanto is accused of. They should be the ones accused of setting out to prove that their item is safe. Industry tests its own products for safety. You see, that's another problem. They test, the very companies that are trying to get them approved are the ones doing the testing. We need independent testing, people like Seralini to do those. But then again, it wouldn't give them the outcome that they want. He did not expect to find an increase in tumor incidence, but that's what came out of it. So, and then he said it's the wrong type of rat. Those are naturally prone to tumors, when in fact it's the same. The Sprague Dawley rat is the same strain used by the 90-day test that GM giants such as Monsanto uses as well. So it just goes on to talk about this. the various things here. But that's it for this study. This, I guess, answer to the critics. And it's very important that we read both sides. I mean, obviously, when it first, I wasn't able to cover any videos concerning his study when it came out, and then shortly after, I learned of him being accused, and Monsanto running damage control over it and all that, and all these critics coming out and attacking him, and I was like, oh no, this is discrediting. But then again, here we're reading this, and I'm showing you this, and it's actually not. See, when you read both sides. So hopefully it gives you a little bit more information about this, and about the things that we're eating. This is the type of battle we're dealing with here. And genetically modified foods, it's going to be something that I talk about a lot, because it's at the forefront of what we eat. It's very dangerous, very proven to be an issue, and we're only going to know later down the road really how bad it is. And of course, I covered last week the new farm bill that's going to give companies like Monsanto carte blanche when it comes to whatever they can do. They already have a pretty free reign for the most part, as far as having infiltrated our FDA and being able to push things through. And it's very, very disheartening, very destructive, and we're going to try to get this word out, and hopefully through our actions we're going to get things changed. And so I think hopefully you can see why I wanted to cover that right away and make that the top story, and really spend the bulk of the time on it. But moving right along, I wanted to talk about taking action, and it concerns actually a success of, and an example of, this is what happens when we take action, and just one person steps up and takes action and convinces hundreds of thousands of others to take action as well. And so this week's action alert will not only be a reminder of some of the things that I've laid forth already, but it will actually be a motivation for you to take action and to get the word out, and also to inform you about a particular product. And I have covered this before concerning Gatorade and the color additives and things like that. And there was someone did a video of what happens inside your body when you're eating ramen and Gatorade, and you can see that video showing that the color never goes away, and that the food is never really broken up in a way. So I wanted to cover this article from LA Times Business, and basically it's Gatorade pulls ingredient linked to flame retardant. And the reason why I'm covering this as far as an actual alert goes, because this is a result of them pulling this ingredient, is a result of someone taking action and starting a petition, and I'll show you that here in a second, that actual petition. But this article here on the LA Times lays out and goes through them pulling Gatorade. It says brominated vegetable oil, a synthetic chemical, has been patented in Europe as a flame retardant, and it will no longer double as an ingredient in Gatorade sports drinks. And it goes down, a recent petition on change.org to drop the chemical, which has more than 200,000 supporters, did not inspire the decision, Carter said, though she acknowledged that consumer feedback was the main impetus. Well, they're gonna, a spokesperson that's good for PepsiCo is gonna say that, but maybe they were already looking into it. But I can guarantee this sped up the process quite a bit whenever there's an outcry of this nature. And this isn't the first time that they have spoken out about it. People have. There's a Scientific American article, actually, I want to go to, that this article refers to, but I want to just look at the Scientific American article. And it's called Brominated Battle. Soda chemical has cloudy chemical has cloudy health history. This is from the Scientific American. And it says, some scientists now urge a reassessment of, quote, BVO because they wonder whether it has some of the same risks as brominated flame retardants. And this is brominated vegetable oil. And this article goes through talking about a gamer hangout in Atlanta, an Atlanta suburb, and the gamers are drinking these beverages. They're drinking Mountain Dews and other drinks like this that are chocked full of caffeine and of course this toxic chemical. But they want to take these drinks to stay alert and stay awake. It says this person, a regular at the bar, says he's seen people plow through several of these in 6 sodas in 6 hours, he says. It says they're also, not only are they getting the caffeine and the sugar from it, they're getting a dose of synthetic chemical called brominated vegetable oil. And this chemical, it's been patented by companies as a flame retardant, and it's banned in food throughout Europe and Japan. See, these companies like Europe and Japan, they're looking at GMOs, they're looking at products. Like Japan will not allow GM soy to be in their country, and so these other countries are doing it, but yet America just says, come right in, do what you will to us. But a few patients that have drank too much soda have needed medical attention for things like skin lesions, memory loss, and nerve disorders, all symptoms of overexposure to bromine. And it says the scientific data is scarce for these tests, and it breaks down in the United States. Going back again, like I said with the GMOs, sure, in some things it takes a high level of these products to actually cause an issue. Well, think about all the things that high fructose corn syrup is in. Think about all the things that this drink is in. Basically, this BVO, it helps suspend the color within the liquid. Otherwise, you know what Gatorade is: orange and blue and yellow and green and all those colors. That basically, without the BVO, it would actually cause the color to float to the top. So that's why they use it in there. But they say they have another product that's not as dangerous, well, that we know of yet, that's going to do the same thing. How about just making a clear drink? How about just making a drink that's clear? If you're going to artificially flavor it, I guess you're going to do that anyway, but just make it clear. I mean, is it that hard? I understand there's marketing and people are going to grab the color they want. Well, those people can drink that if they want, but I and myself am not. But it points out the fact that this article says the United States, 85% of kids drink a beverage containing sugar or artificial sweetener at least once a week. And sodas are the largest source of calories for teenagers between the ages of 14 to 18. That's alarming, because of all the fatty foods they eat and all the fries and burgers and things that young people eat and pizzas, that it's saying the sodas are the largest source of calories. That's alarming. And so this is why these things that are in the drinks, the yellow number 5 and all the other things that I pointed out in my visits to the stores, this is a problem. And then it goes on to say about the emulsifier that it helps the flavoring. The flavoring would float to the top. But before I run to over here, that's just what I wanted to look at. There's also this is the petition from the change.org website. There's the bottle of Gatorade. They petition Gatorade. It shows who all that they've delivered it to. Don't put flame retardant chemicals in our sports drinks. And it just goes on. This is from, the petition was done by Sarah Kavanaugh in Hattiesburg in the United States here. And basically just goes on. She gives us a summary. There's been a victory. Thank you all for your support. She didn't realize that it would be, that it would do the way, have the great success that it has, and she kind of gives the rundown. But that's the type of thing that that's the type of thing that's a motivation for us to take action when there's something. Sure that we can make personal decisions and say, well, I'm not going to drink that, I'm not going to eat that. But here's the problem. If there's not enough of us not eating and drinking that stuff, because it does start with voting with our money. When we're not buying those products, they're going to change the way they do it. We've already seen them bring back the like the throwback Pepsi and things like that, where they put real sugar in instead of high fructose corn syrup, like it used to be. And they're able to spin it off as, oh, it's a new marketing thing. Well, I have a great feeling that it's because people are aware of these things, and they want to, without them coming out and actually saying these products are bad, so we're changing, they can say, well, this is a new product we're offering to our customers because you spoke, or because we care about you enough to give you what you want, without saying, oh, these are bad, we're going to take them off and give you this, without admitting that all along it's been terrible for us. So we vote with our dollars. And by doing these petitions, by sending letters to the FDA, it's a way for us to make noise. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, gets the grease, and we want to be that squeaky wheel. We want to wake others up, because do you really want your family drinking these things if you know enough about them? Do you really, whether they care or not, do you have enough care for them to take action and do something for them? And it really just comes down to that. We can really make a change, and that's why I wanted to show you that story this week. It's something that broke this week, and they're going to change it. Whether they admit that that's why or not, they're going to change it. And let's keep an eye on the new product they're going to use, the new ingredient they're going to use, because we don't know about that one yet. But that's a reminder for us. Take action on the genetically engineered salmon petition to the FDA. Take action on the new farm bill. Do what we can to contact our representatives and to say that we do not want this. We want other options. And by voting with our dollars, by doing the right things, we're going to force the industry to change, and organics will begin to come down in price because no one will buy the other crud, and it'll create more supply in the market. So until next time, this has been Food Offensive Weekly News. Thank you for joining me.